The hotel loomed large, all glass and gold, a palace of luxury. Eleanor, clutching her worn suitcase, approached the reception. Years of hard work had afforded her this one treat. A small smile touched her lips, quickly fading as the receptionist sneered.
Reservation?
His tone was clipped, dismissive. Eleanor Smith. Eleanor Smith, she said, voice trembling slightly. He looked at her simple dress, her sensible shoes. His eyes hardened.
We have no record.
His words were like a slap. Eleanor's heart pounded. This couldn't be happening. But I have a confirmation, Eleanor pleaded, rummaging through her purse. Her hands shook as she desperately searched for the email that would prove she had a reservation. The weight of the stairs around her made her movements frantic, almost clumsy. People in the grand lobby stopped to stare. Their eyes bore into her, a mix of curiosity and judgment. It felt as if the entire world had paused to witness her moment of vulnerability. Whispers like venomous snakes slithered around her. She could almost hear the words, each one a tiny dagger aimed at her dignity. Who is she? Why is she causing a scene? Poor old woman.
Granny must be confused, the manager said, his voice dripping with condescension. He didn't even bother to hide his disdain, making Eleanor feel even smaller.
Lost her marbles, poor thing. The whispers grew louder, more insistent, as if the crowd was feeding off her humiliation. Eleanor felt a burning shame creep up her neck. Her face flushed, and she wished she could disappear. The luxurious surroundings only made her feel more out of place, more unworthy. Her fingers trembled as she finally found the email confirmation. She held it up like a lifeline, hoping it would end this nightmare. The receptionist barely glanced at it. His disinterest was palpable, as if her plight was just another inconvenience in his day.
Looks like a mistake, he said, his voice dripping with disdain. He didn't even try to hide his contempt, making Eleanor feel even more isolated. Eleanor Smith, please, Eleanor begged, her voice cracking. Just check again. She felt her dignity slipping away with each word, but she had no choice but to plead.
He shook his head, turning to a well-dressed couple behind her. They looked at her with a mix of pity and annoyance, as if she was an obstacle in their perfect day.
Can I help you? The manager asked, his voice now smooth as silk. He had already dismissed Eleanor, moving on to the next guest as if she no longer existed. His tone was completely different now, warm and welcoming. Eleanor stood there, feeling invisible, as the manager effortlessly switched to charm mode for the new guests.
Eleanor wanted to scream, to cry, to disappear. Instead, she straightened her spine. She would not give them the satisfaction of seeing her crumble. She may be old, but she was not invisible. With her head held high, she walked away from the counter, ignoring the curious stares that followed her. She found a plush armchair tucked in a corner, away from the judging eyes. As she sat there, a young woman approached her. Eleanor had been sitting on that bench for what felt like hours, her mind swirling with worry and despair. She had never felt so alone in her life. The world around her seemed to blur, the sounds of the bustling city fading into the background. But then, out of the corner of her eye, she noticed a figure approaching.
"Are you all right, ma'am?" she asked, her voice gentle. The young woman's voice was like a soothing balm to Eleanor's frayed nerves. It was filled with genuine concern, something Eleanor hadn't felt from a stranger in a long time.
Eleanor looked up, surprised by the kindness in her eyes. She had expected to be ignored, as she often was, but this young woman was different. Her eyes were filled with empathy and understanding, and it made Eleanor feel seen. She hesitated, then poured out her story. It was a story of loss and hardship, of a life that had taken unexpected turns. Eleanor spoke of her late husband, her estranged children, and the financial troubles that had left her feeling helpless. The young woman listened patiently, her brow furrowed in concern. She didn't interrupt or judge. She simply listened, offering a comforting presence that Eleanor desperately needed.
"That's awful," she said when Eleanor finished. Her voice was filled with empathy, and it was clear that she genuinely cared about Eleanor's plight. "Don't worry, we'll figure something out." The young woman's words were like a lifeline to Eleanor, offering a glimmer of hope in a sea of despair.
For the first time since this ordeal began, Eleanor felt a glimmer of hope. It was a small spark, but it was enough to make her believe that things could get better. The young woman, her name was Sarah, insisted on buying Eleanor a cup of tea. They walked to a nearby cafe, and as they sat down with their steaming cups, Eleanor felt a sense of warmth and comfort that she hadn't felt in a long time. As they sat there talking, Eleanor felt a warmth spread through her, chasing away the chill of humiliation. The conversation flowed easily, and Eleanor found herself smiling and laughing, something she hadn't done in what felt like an eternity. Sarah's kindness had not only lifted her spirits, but had also restored her faith in humanity. It was a reminder that even in the darkest of times, the kindness of strangers could light the way. Section 5. The photo, a window to the past. Sarah, with the boundless energy of youth, decided to confront the manager. Eleanor watched nervously as Sarah approached the man, a photo clutched in her hand. The manager, his face a mask of impatience, glanced at the photo. His eyes widened. He looked from the photo to Eleanor, his expression shifting from disbelief to shock. He quickly excused himself from Sarah and strode towards Eleanor. Section 6. Recognition dawns. The manager's transformation.
Mrs. Smith?
Eleanor looked up, wary.
I can't believe it's you.
He took a deep breath.
That photo, he said, pointing to Sarah, who now stood beside him, a triumphant smile on her face. It's of you receiving an award years ago for your philanthropy.
He looked at Eleanor, his eyes filled with a newfound respect.
You funded the building of the children's hospital in our city, the hospital that saved my daughter's life.
Section 7. From scorn to respect. A red carpet unrolled. The world seemed to tilt on its axis. Eleanor could only stare at the man, his words washing over her like a cleansing wave. He knew, he understood.
Mrs. Smith, I am deeply sorry for the misunderstanding. Please allow me to offer you the best suite in the hotel. Complimentary, of course. Consider it a small token of our gratitude for all that you've done.
He gestured towards the grand lobby, now seemingly bathed in a different light. Section 8. A changed heart. The power of redemption. Eleanor, still reeling from the sudden turn of events, found herself being escorted to a suite that was larger than her entire apartment. The manager, his earlier arrogance replaced with humility, personally saw to her every comfort. As she sank into the plush sofa, surrounded by luxury she never thought she'd experience, Eleanor realized that this was about more than just a free hotel room. It was about redemption, about recognizing the worth of a person beyond their outward appearance. Section 9. More than a night's stay, a legacy of kindness. The next morning, Eleanor woke up feeling like royalty. As she enjoyed a lavish breakfast on her private balcony, overlooking the city, she knew that this experience had changed her. She had faced humiliation with grace, and in doing so, had revealed the true character of those around her. The scorn of the receptionist had been countered by the kindness of strangers like Sarah, and the manager's initial judgment had given way to profound respect. Section 10. Echoes of Grace, Paying It Forward. Eleanor checked out of the hotel that day, her heart full. She had spent a week in this luxurious haven, a place she had never imagined she would visit. The staff had been kind, the service impeccable, and the ambience soothing. But it was more than just a pleasant stay. It was a transformative experience. She left behind not just a generous tip for the staff, but a heartfelt note expressing her gratitude. Eleanor wanted them to know how much their kindness had meant to her. She had been through a lot recently, and this stay had been a much-needed respite. The manager, visibly moved by her gesture, felt a deep sense of responsibility. He had seen many guests come and go, but Eleanor's quiet grace and appreciation had touched him profoundly. He knew that her words and actions were a testament to the power of kindness and compassion. Inspired by Eleanor, the manager promised to personally oversee a new initiative to train his staff in recognizing and respecting senior citizens. He wanted to ensure that every elderly guest felt as valued and cared for as Eleanor had. This initiative would include sensitivity training, workshops on empathy, and practical tips on how to assist senior guests. As Eleanor walked away from the hotel, her steps lighter than they had been in years, she felt a sense of peace and fulfillment. She knew that her small act of gratitude had sparked something much larger. It was a reminder that even the smallest gestures can have a ripple effect, creating waves of positive change. She knew that this experience, born out of humiliation, had blossomed into something beautiful. Eleanor had faced many challenges in her life, but this moment of grace had given her a renewed sense of hope and purpose. She realized that every setback could be an opportunity for growth and transformation. It had blossomed into something beautiful. The flowers in the garden seemed to bloom more brightly, the air felt fresher, and the world seemed a little kinder. Eleanor felt a deep connection to the beauty around her, a reminder that life, despite its hardships, could still be full of grace and wonder. It was a reminder that kindness and respect can bloom even in the most unexpected of places. Eleanor had found kindness in a hotel lobby, a place she had never expected to find such profound compassion. It was a testament to the fact that goodness could be found anywhere, even in the most unlikely of places, and that sometimes it takes a little adversity to reveal the true gold within us all. Eleanor's journey had been filled with challenges, but it was these very challenges that had revealed her inner strength and resilience. She walked away from the hotel not just as a guest, but as a beacon of hope and grace, ready to pay it forward in her own life.